Yeah, as I mentioned, we're going to run just like a regular 3-hour course, so I ask everybody to silence your cell phones. I've already silenced mine. I'll double check it because what I'll ask is if a phone goes off, I'll just ask for if everybody agrees. And those who've been to these courses before know what I'm going to ask. For a $5 donation to Homers for the Homeless. And Homers for the Homeless is the charity of the Mortgage Bankers Association, and that's actually where your $10 registration fee is going to, the whole $10. So thank you for your donation to that. I think last year we raised nearly $2,500 through these events to give to Homers for the Homeless, and I think overall the MBA raised over $15,000. They give to local homeless shelters, local homeless charities, and do a lot of good work for homeless people, which is, homes and real estate is really our livelihoods, whether we're in insurance or mortgage or real estate, that's how we make our livelihoods. So the MBA is trying to make sure those that are unfortunate get a chance to get back on their feet. So the reason you all are here, I'm guessing, is because you're involved somehow with social media or mobile technology. You have customers that are using it. You have challenges. You have opportunities that you're trying to embrace using social media, mobile technology, video technology, all of that, which is great. And we're going to talk a lot about that. But the other aspect of this whole course is just, as Missouri Real Estate Commission licensed realtors, we all have obligations to meet Missouri state statutes and regulations, and just the new world of home buyers and what they're doing on a day in, day out basis has really changed the world, and on one hand changed the way we do business. On the other hand, we're doing the exact same thing we've always done. So the bottom line is you get a chance, and I think I put it in here on the very last line here. The more the technologies become entwined in what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, we're able to improve ourselves. We're able to improve the service that we provide, but we also can easily mess things up if we don't watch out what we're doing. Over the last, 10 years ago, the internet was just really starting to take grasp of what was going on in the real estate industry. In the last few years, it's just really accelerated. With YouTube, with the videos and search engines, and I'm sure a lot of you are involved marketing-wise with maybe pay-per-click or buying leads from Zillow or Realtor.com or Trulia, any of those sites. Does anybody else participate in any type of and again, it's just a new way of those potential customers coming to us as real estate agents, and ultimately they still just want a house, but the way they're collecting the information, the way they're exploring has really changed, and they've taken a lot of the control and a lot of the information by their own reins, and they're able to jump in and get a lot of answers themselves. But what's interesting, and we'll walk through some statistics, is that real estate agents and the real estate community is really more valuable and more used than they ever have been before. So even though consumers come to you and they believe they know everything about real estate or the neighborhood or pricing and market trends and all that, because they've explored and done all this research, the bottom line is they still look to you, the real estate professional, for guidance on pricing, contracts, offers, working through all the things that you all work through on a day-to-day basis that sometimes makes you pull your hair out. So really what I wanted to start it off here with was just kind of show the trend over the years of what today's average first home buyer looks like. So this, in these statistics, a lot of what I'm sharing here today are from the information is from the profile of home buyers and sellers from the National Association of Realtors. Has anybody ever looked through one of these before? You guys have? They email them to you, the PDFs. Well, it's a great book. I've got a couple of them. I'm going to give a couple efficiently. But I think it's about 115 pages. They surveyed roughly, I think, over 8,000 consumers last year, so this is for the 2012 report. They talked to hundreds of realtors, over 8,000 consumers. They compiled all the information and put it into this book, which your license fees helps fund, helps pay for. So with your association dues, your national dues, you help fund the research done in this book. So, well, we're going to cover a lot of it. What's that, Steve? No. I'm sure it was a comment about the fees. But they've been doing this for over 10 years now. And as you can see, what this graph shows is the percentage of the market that are first-time home buyers. So back in 2001, it was 42%. And then here, towards the end of the 2000s, it really spiked up to nearly half the market became first-time home buyers. So now I'm going to give away the first book here. Who knows why first-time home buyers spiked up here in 2000? And
the tax.
you got it. There you go. So yeah, it was artificially inflated because of the tax credit that the government gave out. So in 2009, 2010, first-time home buyers flooded the market, and then when that tax credit went away, the market dipped back down to under 40% of the buyers out there being first-time home buyers. The historical average is 40%. So last year we're at 39%. I don't know, are you guys seeing more first-time home buyers this year than you were last year? That's not a guess. So maybe we're back up above 40%. But I think what's exciting about that is it's organic. Now it's the real deal. There's no stimulus from the government that's giving money to encourage people to buy homes. So that's a real deal. So it really starts to feel like it's a real recovery, and maybe not artificial like the 2009 2000. So the typical first-time home buyer, actually, and again, this is from the profile. Can't tell you. Sorry, I don't know what page it's on. The first-time home buyer is 31 years old. So when you're looking at 40% of the market, typically when you look at that person, you try to visualize they're 31 years old. So again, this is just the statistics brought in from the National Association of Realtors, just kind of give us a baseline of what home buying public looks like right now. So to take that a little bit further, this graph breaks it down even further into segments: 18 to 24 years, 25 to 34-year-olds, 35 to 44, and so on. And then over here it breaks it down. I really like this because it breaks it into region. So we obviously here in St. Louis, and anyone who works on the Illinois side of the river, or all the way to Kansas City or France and wherever, we're going to focus here on the Midwest. And when you dial in on those numbers, nearly 2/3 of all buyers. So if you combine all these numbers together, you go 44 years and under, nearly 2/3 of all buyers out there in the Midwest fall into that category. So the majority of the home buyers in the Midwest, the St. Louis region, are under the age of 44 years.
So, right, you switch from the previous graph, you were talking about first-time buyers. This is all buyers.
This is all buyers. That's correct. That's correct. Good point, Andy. keep me on task. And feel free. We want this to be conversational. It's no fun to just preach. And if you're asking questions and catching mistakes I'm making, that lets me know you're listening. So that's good. This is all buyers. So by far the largest share of buyers overall is the 25 to 34 year age group, which is 35%. And again, that's here in the Midwest. Another interesting statistic that if you look at all these numbers here, down on the very bottom, the median age they broke it down by each region. So as you can see, the Midwest here, we have the youngest buying population. So the average overall, again, this is not first-time home buyer. This is all buyers. The average buyer is 39 years old. That includes everybody. So Midwest has the youngest buyers in the country. I'm just curious. I mean, I can make up reasons. I think I know why that is. Does anybody have any idea or insight as to why you might think Midwest has younger buyers? Oh, I see. Hey. Oh, Mark. Affordability. Well, I'm sure it's a factor. Yeah, affordability.
The South should be, a lot of the South is very. Should be. It's very cheap.
Well, this isn't an affordability
No,
chart.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't explain it.
Right.
With the South having a much older.
Yeah, I think it might be. Yeah.
I think it may be an expectation of responsibility.
I agree.
So these statistics are 2012.
Right.
You said that would take effect by the South would not be. It's a huge percentage of the money.
Because the housing market took a dive and just
And
perception.
And investors were going over the line.
Right. So, I think it's a combination of both. But it is what it is. We're in the Midwest and we have the youngest buyers out there. So to contrast that, just to look at what's that?
Buyers are young and the agents are old.
That's how that sounds.
Yes, yes, it is. Yes, yes. 2%.
So all I have to do is flip the chart up, and then you guys can do it. That's great. You're right. The blue sliver right there, 2%, is 30 years or less. Now these statistics come from the National Association's Realtors member profile. So that's another one of these books. I actually have a couple copies of it too. Same deal. That the National Association of Realtors every year they survey. I think this one's thousands of realtors. They compile what average age are, average income, average experience in the market, and then they put it back out and send it out to the members. So you guys pay for this one too. And this is your association reporting this information. So Kathleen, right? You pointed out 2%, 30 years, and then it goes this way. It goes to the left here. So you've got a 4% or 30 to 34. 5% for 35 to 39, 9% for 40 to 44 years. So if you had those numbers up right there, it's 20% of the agents that are out there are 44 years or younger. So it is what it is. There's huge opportunity there. And I don't think it has as much to do with the age as it has to do with what we're going to keep talking about here. Is how are the younger people? If the majority of buyers are under 40, under 44 years old? I think that's what the last slide said. How do they want to be communicated with? How do they communicate? How do they search? How do they shop? How do they go about finding out what the best deal is for a house, for a car, for whatever it is? I don't think you have to be their age. I think you just have to kind of play in the world and be willing to kind of jump in the sandbox with them, and if they're using a technology maybe that you're not that familiar with, maybe you just have to accept that the majority of buyers out there are going to be using that, and just at least be aware of it. I mean, no one has to be professional in Facebook or anything like that, but just at least know what the trends are, and that's what we're talking about a lot today. So I think when you leave here today, you've got the handout. Some of you will have some of these profile books that the Association of Realtors has put out. I think you'll have a better understanding, and I think you'll better be able to serve your customers. And ultimately, and we're going to get into it here shortly, MREC guidelines and rules and regulations, it all plays together. The rules were written years and decades, and some of it was written 100 years ago, where a lot of this technology was not used at that time. Obviously, wasn't thought of. But the same concept of buying homes and home shoppers and and the services that real estate agents and mortgage lenders, and title reps and insurance agents bring to the table. You're still providing that service, and you're still helping a buyer, realize the dream of home ownership. And the technology and the communication and all that is just a way to get there. So I think on one hand, it's all changed a lot. On the other hand, it's still very simple as what we've always done. I think the other interesting part that was added out of the member profile is nearly a quarter of the agents of your colleagues have joined real estate in the last 5 years. So just by show of hands, has anybody just gotten into the real estate industry in the last 5 years? So Susan has. So roughly a quarter of the population is relatively new, and under a fifth are under 44 years old. So it is what it is. So I guess the conversation we're going to have is really talks about just acknowledging that no matter what the age is of a home buyer, home seller, what your customer is, they're using the internet for something. 90% use the internet as a source during the home search process. And I know this isn't coming of great news to any of you. You've been living in this world for a while. But over the years, it just continues to climb. What this chart shows, and again, this is from the National Association Buyer Profile, it lists off the top sources of information that home buyers use during the home buying process. Number one is internet. What's interesting, if you look over here on the right-hand side, it breaks it down into those age categories again. So 18 to 44, 25 to 44, 45 to 64, and 65 and older. So internet is pretty much used across the board. Almost, 96% for 44 years and under. It's almost 100%. Real estate agent is still just used as almost as much as always historically, 87% overall. So I think there was that fear 10 years ago when the MLS became so widely available to buyers. The MLS books went away and all. I think there was that fear that real estate agents were going to be totally replaced by the internet, kind of like travel agents were replaced. But that's obviously not happening. When buyers are saying the real estate agent is just as much used as the internet, they're being used hand in hand. One's not replacing the other.
Brad, is there any information on at what point in the buying process people are using the internet versus getting a realtor involved?
Definitely. Well, we do cover that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I could get into it, but it also comes down to, we'll talk about it, but first-time home buyers versus repeat home buyers use sources differently.
Sure.
And we'll get a little bit more into that. But your first-time home buyer actually is more likely to go to the internet very quickly just to explore, to educate themselves. Whereas someone who's bought a house before knows, I need to get my real estate agent involved sooner in the process. So they're both still using the internet, they're just kind of using it for different things. And we'll dive into that. That's later on. It's a good question. And it just kind of just plays back on this last sentence here. Social media and mobile technology connects online to offline home buying. The same things are happening, they're just kind of happening in unison. Buyers calling you, asking you for a price on a property, and then by the time you give them that answer, they're already online looking at the price of another property. But they have questions about it. They know they can't get everything they need online, so they know they need you, and they know ultimately, and I'm not trying to give away too much, it comes up later in the presentation, they ultimately need real estate professional guidance on negotiations, contracts, valuations. Everybody knows that Zillow and these automated valuation models, they're relevant, they can get you going down the right road, but they're not the end-all be-all by any means. So everyone knows that a professional is going to have to be involved at some point. It's just worth highlighting again there, nearly 100% of buyers that are out there under the age of 44 are using the internet during the home buying process. So when we talk about the internet, I mean, we're talking about it broadly, but a lot of the main uses they're using are, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, their iPad, their mobile device, their laptop. They're using all these different forms of technology and forms of communication, all involves the internet, to shop and buy homes. And it's not just homes they're shopping for; they're shopping for cars, they're shopping for everything. And homes just are now much more involved in that arena now, because between tax information and MLS information, it's just very readily available. And if real estate professionals can, like I said, you don't have to become an expert on any of these technologies. You just have to be aware of how they're being used and where you might find yourself falling into the equation. You're ultimately going to be able to better serve your buyers effectively, which ultimately is the responsibility of licensed real estate agents. To serve and protect the best interests of the home buying public. So we talk about internet, we talk about mobile technology. This just kind of is an independent study to just kind of bring social media into the whole conversation. And this breaks down, this was actually done by Research Center of Internet and American Life Project. This is a nonpartisan group that just is constantly trying to get a pulse on what technologies are being used, what they're being used for. So this is not from this is a different source than the National Association of Realtors. This is not from Google either. This is actually from a governmental agency, nonpartisan. They're very specific to say that they're nonpartisan. But what this shows you, this top line here, 92% of the American public that's between 18 and 49 years old is using social media. Between 30 and 49 years old, 73%. This is from August of last year. That was the most up-to-date numbers I could get. So I'm sure these numbers are all higher.
And that's not regards to real estate, that's just.
This is just overall. Yeah, this is totally just overall, not real estate specific. And then 57%, 50 years to 65 years, and then 38% 65 older. So overall, nearly 70% of citizens in the United States that are over the age of 18 are using social media in some way, somehow. And the fastest growing segment are users over the age of 50 years old. So even though maybe only 60%, 57% of those between 50 and 64 are using it, they're actually rapidly growing, and that number is increasing. That number really can't get much higher. It's almost the whole population of anyone under 29 to 18 years old. So, any guesses? I'll give away another book as to why those 50 years and older are starting to utilize social media more than ever. Any guesses? You guys know one.
I've got one.
There you go.
My 82-year-old mother just got online for the first time this year, so I think people are realizing it's here to stay, and
Right.
they may as well eat some.
There you go.
If I want to see pictures of my nephew, I have
Is
to get a Facebook.
that why she got on there?
Yeah. Well, someone finally gave her a computer.
There you go. See the grandbabies, right? See the pictures.
I have to get a Facebook account in order to see my nephew's.
Right. Isn't that crazy? But that's right. So, in the contrast again, and Kathleen started laughing. How comfortable are agents in contrast in using social media? The answer is over here, extremely comfortable is in green here is 33%. Now that's extremely comfortable. If you add in comfortable as well, 30%, you got roughly 2/3 of real estate agents. They're somewhere falling in this category right here. The other other bars here, blue, red, green, and purple, are brokers and agents, and it's contrasting 2010 versus 2011. So this is how much it grew from purple here is 2010 to green in 2011. So realtors are fastly adapting to it. And this is from National Association of Realtors. So this is a self survey done by realtors. So what's this really mean? I mean, there's a huge opportunity here. When the majority of the buyers are using social media and the majority of the realtors are not using it or being comfortable with it, you've got an opportunity there to jump ahead of your competition. So that's there's two ways to look at it. I know, Kathleen, you were laughing, kind of making fun of your own profession, but there's some truth to that. But then also, there's opportunity. Those who embrace it and jump ahead of the curve are able to reap the rewards of it. So we'll dig in a little deeper. We'll get into exactly which social media services are being used and how they're being used and how that all really plays into protecting the interest of your home buyers. Over 160 million users in the U.S. on Facebook alone. Does anybody remember how many people are in the United States from the last survey? The Census Bureau? 350? Is that what it was? Something like that. I think it was. Something like that. So, I mean, well over half of the people in the United States are on Facebook. They're actually the third most visited website in the United States. And ironically, and since we're talking about social media, what it means for license law for realtors, Facebook actually, in its terms of service, says you will not use your personal profile for your own commercial gain. So they monitor that. They shut down accounts, personal accounts. They want you to do a company account. They want you to pay advertising dollars. But for on the personal profile accounts, you got to be careful exactly how you use it and how much you use it for advertising, how much you use it for commercial purposes, which is fine. I mean, as you all probably know, most people don't go onto Facebook to get solicited or to get sold or to get hit up for business or anything like that. They go on there to be social. They go on there to look at pictures of their grandbabies, or Larry Connors goes on there to talk about what the IRS is doing. Did you all hear about that? He actually got let go from his job. You didn't hear that? Okay, he's looking at yeah, he got let go. They announced it this morning because he
says he's a free agent.
He's a free agent, I'm sure. Yeah, he's 35 years on St. Louis TV, and he just posted that the IRS is after him on his Facebook page, and he lost his job over it. So it's real what happens, and I pulled out this example and I thought we could talk about it. Obviously, that's Justin Bieber. He didn't make this post, but this is an actual example. That it's a fictitious name, but a real example of something that happened on Facebook. And we could just kind of talk about how you guys might coach this buyer. So Jimmy Homebuyer here, he posted just on a status post that he found his dream house, and you guys could probably relate to this. He viewed 43 houses, 12 different subdivisions over the last 9 months, and he finally says he's found his house. And he names the subdivision Castle Estates. And he envisions going to the park down in Forest Downs, which is just a block away. But he hopes the seller accepts his offer. So he's made an offer. He hasn't given the address. He's more or less told Facebook the area he's in. And he can't wait to invite us all over for his homewarming party. Well, what happened with this, is reported on the news, is that one of his friends saw this post and knew, so a friend on Facebook, I don't know if it was actually his friend or just someone that he befriended, saw it and knew that they had another friend that was looking in that subdivision and shared it with their other friend and said, hey, it looks like there's a good house in this Castle Estates. This guy made an offer. They did the research, found the house, made an even more competitive offer, and got the house. So they actually used the information that this guy posted, knowing that house was in competition, and made a better offer. Obviously, he didn't say what he offered. He didn't give the dollar amount. But they knew they had to be competitive. Yes?
Right, we have on enforcing that in our office.
Oh, good, good. Yeah,
The buyer posted on Facebook that they made an offer and they hoped the seller took it, but if they didn't, they'd go to full price. They didn't.
So they didn't accept it, did they?
They didn't learn from that, so they got into negotiation on the building inspection and said that they'd asked for several minor things on the building inspection, but they loved this house so much that if the seller, they posted it, and the buyer, the seller read it both times, and the seller used it obviously to negotiate, and that's a true story out of our Chesterfield
Wow.
office.
You think sellers are looking at buyers' Facebook pages?
Well, don't you?
They know what their name is.
Yeah, they certainly know
And
their
the
name.
buyers and sellers
Basic
of a certain
info.
age are going to be, we may
So
not
I
be.
need to know for sure.
No, only if you have a private profile. Now, granted, most people
What
my
was the
age
question?
have a
What was
private
it, Mark?
profile.
What was that?
He was saying that you can only read it if you're friends with them, but I have a private, I saw a statistic last week that people under 30, something like 65% of people under 30 have private profiles where you can only see status updates if you're
Right.
friends with them. But most people over the age of 30 don't have private profiles.
Right, because it's a default setting. I believe it's a default
The default setting is public.
Is public, right. So, and I mean, that's why we're talking about this. I mean, I'm glad you shared the story.
Well, and we do tell our buyers and sellers to be careful what they say
Oh, yeah.
on Facebook.
Definitely.
Because
Yeah.
it's not wise to talk about it until you're done.
Right.
And I tell that very story
That's
because
a good story to share.
it's,
And I mean, even in that case, it was a friend who saw it. A friend, you know. I don't know how good of a friend that is.
Yeah, I might.
You know, they didn't even probably do it knowingly. They probably just in conversation. Who knows? So, what we kind of wanted to do and just discuss, and I'm not a lawyer. I'm not licensed by the MRAC to discuss Missouri real estate law. We're just going to read through the the duties and the obligations here and then discuss how they might apply to scenarios like yours, the one you just brought up, like the one we just talked about. So one of the statutes and rules that are in the MREC real estate regulations are that the agent shall not disclose any confidential information about the client or the potential transaction without the consent of the client, including that they're willing to pay more, what the motivating factors are for any client buying the property, that the client will agree to financing terms other than those offered, and that the terms of any prior offers or counter offers made by any party. So it sounds like what you just said. This buyer disclosed all these things publicly. You can't stop them from doing it, obviously. But you know, it's our as Missouri real estate licensees, it's our obligation, you know, to try to honor this and at least, like you said, share the story. I think and discuss. Here's what it's a free country. You can go tell people what your negotiating strategies are, but you're supposed to be protecting their best interests, and you would advise you cannot disclose that information. I guess the customer can disclose it all they want, but just telling them, you know, that definitely could blow the deal up, or that's not your best interest, like you're saying, to openly tell people what you're willing to do. So, you know, that's our duties and obligations. We can't do it. They obviously can do what they want, but just keeping that in mind and keeping that out in the open when you're talking to clients, I definitely think is just a part of the whole conversation. It's ironic because, you know, 50 years ago, you'd have the same conversation. You would tell someone, you know, when you're at a cocktail party, don't share that information. But now the cocktail party's online, and they're just openly sharing it. They have no idea who's seeing that information. So and I always use the analogy as if you wouldn't put that comment on a billboard, you probably don't want to put it on Twitter or Facebook. So if you wouldn't want everyone on Olive or 270 to see your comment or to see your your revelation about what you're willing to pay for a house. If you wouldn't pay to put it on a billboard, don't don't put it on your Facebook page. Here's another example, just another story to share. And this one actually seems a lot less invasive and just more conversational. But the experts in licensed law for real estate, they actually warn customers and warn buyers about it's called crowdsourcing. So meaning just throwing out questions to their group of friends, to a group of people, and just asking, general questions. Hey, this subdivision, what do you think about it? Is this a good place to live? It sounds like a very non-invasive type of conversation you just have, and you wouldn't think that anything could come out of it. But what they warn about here is, here's Jan Byer here. She's saying, hey, I used to live in this area, and I'm looking to come back. So now she's announced the area she's looking to buy in, and now if you're selling in that area, I think you said sellers are looking on Facebook and trying to figure out, hey, you've got some interest, you have some demand. So you're giving up some of your negotiating power if you've already announced that this is the subdivision movement. Maybe someone knows they're the only house that's for sale in that subdivision, so they're gaining some negotiating grounds. Right? So it seems real simple, but this comes back to your point, Kathleen, that you can just make sure that you limit who your conversations go to. Restrict if they go to friends, or maybe you only send it to, you go in and you select 5 or 6 people that you're going to send it to. People are just used to reporting their experiences, just typing in their feelings, and that's how they feel. I want to move back to my old place, but that might not be a good idea. And this is exactly what you guys were talking about, privacy settings. So this is just an overall look at how many, on average, users, Facebook friends that each age class has. So if you go 18 to 24, 429, 25 to 43, 273, 35 to 44, 220. So there's a big gap from 35 to 44 to 18 to 24, but it really doesn't matter. Even if you're restricting your posts to your friends, let's say you're in this category and you post that you're looking to move in this one neighborhood, that's 220 people that see that, and you don't know who their friends are, you don't know who's shopping in their world. Even if it's restricted, it's still hidden. Does that make sense? So it's one thing for the whole world to see it. Even being restricted, you still don't know. That's a good point you brought up about restricting posts. That is a setting. It used to default to everybody could see it. I think there's a little more control in it now. But it's definitely just something to be aware of, something to talk to your customers about, share these stories. They can disclose all they want. You just can't. We can't as licensees. LinkedIn. How are buyers using LinkedIn? Keep track of that. Typically, and what the studies show are that LinkedIn is more professional. Does everybody here have a LinkedIn profile? Good. Most real estate agents do, which is great because buyers are going to search your comments, your recommendations. They're just, what used to be, they might ask their friends, hey, have you ever worked with David? Did you do a good job? Now they can just go online in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, click and see what some of the recommendations are, see if they know any of the people who maybe recommended you, maybe look and see if they know any of your friends, and maybe they reach out to them and just try to get a reference or whatever. But 93% of companies use LinkedIn during their hire process. So in a sense, our customers are hiring us. So they might not be a company hiring us, but they're an individual hiring us for individual services. They're using LinkedIn. They're jumping in there, just trying to figure out what kind of service you provide. 90% of people trust online recommendations for people they know. So some people might say, it doesn't matter what's online, it's not real. Well, if they find a recommendation, they find something that's said from someone that they know, and it's online, they believe it. And I mean, on the good side of that, this actually, fly-by-night, out-of-town internet, real estate providers, mortgage providers, whatever, makes them harder to gain a good reputation, makes them harder to get those referrals because, they're not in the communities like we are. So that's an opportunity that's come out of that. This breakdown is similar to the one we just showed on Facebook, breaking down the age groups. Average age of LinkedIn users, it's predominantly a little older. So the largest group is 35 to 44, 45 to 54, 17%. So LinkedIn has an older population. Kind of break it down to what it means here in Missouri. There's 265,000 LinkedIn users in the St. Louis area. So, I think the population is what, 2.5 million? Is that right? Roughly? It's closer to 3. Is it 2.5? So, a good chunk of them professionals on LinkedIn. So it's a good reference point. And what we could show here is what are home buyers looking at when they jump on LinkedIn? What is it that they're looking for? Well, real estate license requirements say that licensees can only be granted to people who provide that they are of good moral character, bear a good reputation for honesty, integrity, and fair dealing, and are competent to transact business in such a manner to safeguard the interests of the public. So all the things we're talking about is our responsibilities. That's what the MRAC requires, and ultimately this is what their people that are using LinkedIn are looking for. And what this chart shows, and this is from a company called JobPipe, is the reaction that this type of content, if it pops up on your social media profile or anywhere on the internet, the reaction. The big ones are illegal drug usage, any sexual references. Some of the other ones are profanity, spelling, grammar. It's not as bad. And then there's the good ones here with the green arrows up. Donations, volunteer work, professional organization involvement. So these are the things, when they see these things that are good, that's what people are looking for when they do an online search for you. If they see any of these things, and I'm not necessarily accusing anyone in here of posting anything like this, but that's really what they're looking for. And over here on the right-hand side breaks down Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, just kind of like gives you an idea. It looks like really Facebook is being, I just created a new social. Yeah, Facebook. This is a new social network. Facebook. Nobody's still.
No, that's what's going to happen.
There you go, Facebook. Yeah. But Facebook's being, my point is, while LinkedIn is the professional website, Facebook is definitely being used for background searches too. You're buying Facebook. So whether you're using Facebook professionally or not, using it to communicate with your home buyers or not, they're looking for you on there just to kind of see what you're up to. And they like it if they see the volunteer work and that you're donating your time. If you're involved in MBA or Enterprise University, or St. Louis Association of Realtors, anything like that, that's good. They like to see that. Any questions on that? On LinkedIn? Just created another one. LinkedIn or Facebook. I'll take a break here and I'll try to gain my senses here. So we'll take a quick 10-minute break. Get back in here real quick at 2 o'clock, and we'll jump into mobile technology and some of the other social networks that aren't quite as used but are up and coming. There's bathrooms right back through this back door. You have to go through a door, and then there's sodas and coffee out in the lot. What's your question? 2 o'clock. Wendy will escort you through the back door.